plea for help went out. What answered shook the galaxy to its core. The silent colony. The morning sun cast long shadows across the ancient stone circles of Kepler 442c when Dr. Sarah Chen made the discovery that would change everything. She knelt beside the alien artifact, her scanner beeping frantically as it tried to make sense of readings that defied conventional physics. The crystalline structure hummed with an energy that seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. "Sarah, you need to see this," called Dr. James Park from across the excavation site. The Zen archaeologist's voice carried both excitement and concern as he studied his tablet display. "The energy readings are off the charts. This thing isn't just active, it's transmitting." Sarah stood and brushed the red dust from her knees. The research station on Kepler 442c had been her home for 3 years. And in that time, her team of 50 scientists had uncovered wonders that challenged everything humanity thought it knew about the galaxy. The planet itself was a treasure trove of ancient civilization, filled with ruins that spoke of a species that had vanished millions of years ago. "Transmitting what?" Sarah asked, joining James at his workstation. Around them, the other researchers continued their careful excavation of the site, aware that their peaceful scientific mission was about to become something far more dangerous. "That's just it," James replied, his fingers dancing across the tablet's surface. "The signal is incredibly complex. It's broadcasting on frequencies that most species can't even detect. But here's the strange part. It's not random. There's a pattern, almost like it's searching for something." Dr. Lisa Rodriguez, the team's communications specialist, looked up from her equipment array. "The signal is incredibly powerful. It's reaching deep space, possibly even other star systems. If there's anyone out there listening, they're going to hear this loud and clear." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The galactic community had strict protocols about activating unknown alien technology. Humanity was still considered a young species, barely 2 centuries into their spacefaring era. They had been granted permission to establish research stations on unclaimed worlds, but always with the understanding that they would report any significant discoveries to the Galactic Council. "We need to inform the Council immediately," Sarah decided. "This could be a major breakthrough in understanding the precursor civilizations. But we can't risk activating something we don't understand." But it was already too late. The artifact had been active for hours, signal racing across the galaxy at speeds that surpassed conventional faster-than-light communication. In the depths of space, various species were already taking note of the transmission. Most dismissed it as background noise or natural phenomena. The Galactic Council's monitoring stations logged it as a minor anomaly from a primitive human research post. However, in the dark reaches of the Outer Rim, something else was listening. The Vrak Empire had built their civilization on the conquest and enslavement of other species. They had perfected the art of monitoring galactic communications, always searching for signs of weakness or opportunity. When the artifact's signal reached their listening posts, it triggered alerts that brought the attention of Fleet Commander Thaxer. The Vrak were an imposing species, standing nearly 8 feet tall, with chitinous exoskeletons that had evolved from millions of years of warfare. Their empire stretched across dozens of star systems, built on the backs of enslaved races and the technology they had stolen from conquered civilizations. They viewed younger species like humanity as little more than resources to be harvested. Commander reported his aide, a smaller Vrak, whose carapace bore the scars of countless battles. "The signal originates from human space, a research station on the planet they call Kepler 442c. Thaxer's compound eyes studied the tactical display. "Humans," he said with the clicking sound that passed for laughter among his species. "Barely evolved primates playing with technology they don't understand. What could they have found that would interest us?" The aide displayed the signal analysis on the command center's main screen. "The energy signature suggests precursor technology, Commander. Act. The type of artifacts that could advance our weapon systems by decades." Thaxer was interested. The precursor civilizations had left behind technology that was still beyond the understanding of most galactic species. The Vrak had built their empire by finding and reverse engineering such artifacts. If the humans had stumbled upon something significant, it would be a simple matter to take it from them. Deploy the Third Strike Fleet, Thaxter commanded. Standard Conquest Protocol. Eliminate all witnesses, secure the artifact, and prepare the planet for strip mining. These humans will learn what happens when children play with weapons. Back on Kepler 440C, Sarah and her team continued their work, unaware of the danger approaching. Yet the artifact had grown more active throughout the day, its crystalline structure now glowing with an inner light that pulsed in complex patterns. The research team worked frantically to document and understand what they had discovered. The energy output is increasing exponentially, reported Dr. Martinez, the team's chief physicist. At this rate, the artifact will overload our containment systems within hours. Can we shut it down? Sarah asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. I don't think so, Martinez replied. The activation seems to be following a predetermined sequence. It's like it's been waiting for someone to find it, and now it's completing some kind of protocol. Dr. Park looked up from his xenoarchaeological analysis. The symbols around the base are starting to make sense. This isn't just a communication device. It's a beacon. The question is, what is it calling? They got their answer 3 days later when the Vrak fleet dropped out of hyperspace above Kepler 440C. The human research station's limited sensors detected the massive warships as they assumed orbit around the planet. Sarah stood in the command center, watching the displays with growing horror as more and more vessels appeared on their screens. 12 capital ships, reported their security chief, former Earth Defense Force Captain Michael Stone, and at least 30 escort vessels. This isn't a diplomatic mission. The communications array crackled to life with an incoming transmission. The image that appeared on the main screen was nightmare fuel for most species in the galaxy, Commander. Thaxter's chitinous face filled the display, his compound eyes reflecting the light like faceted jewels. Humans of the research station. Voice was a harsh buzzing that the universal translator struggled to render into English. You have activated technology that belongs to the Vrak Empire. Surrender the artifact and prepare for processing. Resistance will result in immediate termination. Sarah stepped forward, her training as a diplomat taking over despite the fear that threatened to overwhelm her. Commander, we are a peaceful research mission operating under Galactic Council protocols. We have no weapons and pose no threat to your empire. Thaxter's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. The Galactic Council holds no authority over the Vrak Empire. You will surrender the artifact or we will take it from your corpses. You have 1 hour to comply. The transmission ended, leaving the research team in stunned silence. Captain Stone was the first to speak. We need to evacuate immediately. The shuttle bay can hold maybe 20 people at most, and we have 50 researchers on this station. Can't abandon 3 years of work, protested Dr. Park. The archaeological data alone represents humanity's greatest discovery about precursor civilizations. We can't take data with us if we're dead, Stone replied grimly. Emergency protocols. Essential personnel only on the first shuttle. But Sarah was thinking about something else entirely. The artifact had been trying to communicate, sending its signal across the galaxy. What if it hadn't been calling the Vrak? What if it had been calling for help, Lisa? She called to the communications specialist. Can you patch me into the deep space communication array? The Vrak will detect any transmission, Rodriguez warned. They'll know we're calling for help. They'll already know, Sarah replied. But maybe someone else is listening too, as the research team prepared for evacuation. Sarah sat down at the communications console and began composing what she hoped wouldn't be humanity's last message. The Vrak fleet loomed above them like a dark cloud, their weapons charging for the inevitable assault. This is Dr. Sarah Chen of the Kepler 440C research station. She began, her voice steady despite the fear that gripped her heart. We are 50. Human scientists who have made a discovery that could change our understanding of galactic history. We are under attack by the Vrak Empire, who seek to steal our research and murder innocent civilians. We cannot defend ourselves against their fleet. If anyone receives this message, please remember that we tried to push the boundaries of knowledge, that we sought to understand the mysteries of the universe. Please don't let our sacrifice be in vain. The message went out on all frequencies. Racing across the galaxy at the speed of light, most species would dismiss it as the desperate plea of a doomed research station. The Galactic Council would file it as another minor incident in the ongoing expansion of aggressive empires. Somewhere in the vast darkness of space, other ears were listening. The Vrak assault began exactly 1 hour after their ultimatum expired. Their ships descended through the atmosphere like falling stars, their plasma cannons turning the peaceful research station into a hellscape of fire and destruction. The human shuttle managed to escape with 23 survivors, but the rest of the team was trapped in the underground research complex. Sarah found herself huddled in the artifact chamber with Dr. Park and a handful of other researchers listening to the sounds of battle above them. The Vrak had landed ground troops and were systematically searching the facility. It was only a matter of time before they found the hidden entrance to the underground complex. "The artifact is still transmitting," Park whispered, checking his handheld scanner. "Whatever signal it's sending, it's getting stronger." Sarah looked at the crystalline structure that had started this nightmare. Its glow had intensified, and the patterns of light seemed almost hypnotic. "Maybe it knows we're in trouble," she said, though she knew how foolish that sounded. Above them, the Vrak continued their methodical destruction of everything the research team had built. They were professionals at this kind of work, having perfected their techniques across dozens of conquered worlds. But as they worked, their sensors began detecting something unusual at the edge of the star system. 3 ships had dropped out of hyperspace, their energy signatures unlike anything in the Vrak databases. They were sleek and angular, built for speed and stealth rather than the brute force approach favored by most military vessels. Most curious of all, they showed no identification signals and responded to no communication attempts. Commander Thaxter studied the tactical display with growing irritation. "Unknown vessels, identify yourselves or be destroyed. This system is under Vrak control." The 3 ships maintained their position at the edge of the system, silent as death itself. Their stealth systems were so advanced that the Vrak sensors could barely maintain a lock on them. For the first time in decades, Thaxter felt a flicker of uncertainty. "Send a patrol squadron to investigate," he ordered. Standard intimidation protocol. But the unknown ships had already begun to move, accelerating toward the planet with impossible speed. The real battle for Kepler-440 was about to begin, and the galaxy would soon learn that humanity was far more than it appeared to be. The hunters. Become hunted, the 3 mysterious ships cut through space like shadows given form, their hulls absorbing sensor sweeps and deflecting targeting systems with technology that defied conventional understanding. Aboard the lead vessel, Captain Marcus Torres stood on the bridge watching the tactical display with the calm focus of a predator sizing up its prey. "Analysis complete, Captain," reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kim. 12. Capital ships, 37 escort vessels, and approximately 2,000 ground troops on the planet's surface. Standard Vrak conquest formation. Torres nodded, his weathered face showing no emotion. The captain was a veteran of conflicts that officially didn't exist. Wars fought in the shadows between species while the galaxy maintained its illusion of peace. He commanded the kind of ship that didn't appear in any naval registry, crewed by the kind of soldiers who supposedly didn't exist. "What about the research station?" Torres asked. "Heavy damage to surface facilities," Kim replied, "but we're detecting life signs in underground sections. The Vrak haven't found all the survivors yet." "Then we have work to do," Torres said quietly. "Signal the Phantom and the Wraith. Operation Nightfall is a go." The 3 human ships began to separate, each one taking a different approach vector toward the planet. To the Vrak sensors, they appeared to simply vanish, their stealth systems, rendering them invisible to all but the most sophisticated detection equipment. The enemy fleet continued their systematic destruction of the research station, unaware that death was approaching from 3 directions. Commander Thaxter stood in his command center, growing increasingly frustrated with his inability to track the unknown vessels. The Vrak had built their empire on superior technology and overwhelming force, but these ships seemed to operate by rules he didn't understand. Status report, he demanded from his sensor operator. We've lost contact with all 3 vessels, Commander. They're either using advanced stealth technology, or they've retreated to hyperspace. Thaxer's mandibles clicked with annoyance. Continue the operation. Whatever those ships were, they're obviously not willing to engage our fleet directly. Focus on securing the artifact was a mistake that would cost him dearly. The human ships hadn't retreated or hidden themselves. They had simply begun to hunt. The first strike came without warning. The Vrak destroyer VES Ravager was patrolling the outer edge of the formation when space itself seemed to tear open beside it. The human ship Phantom materialized from nothing, its weapons already charged and targeting the destroyer's critical systems. The engagement lasted exactly 14 seconds. The Phantom's particle beams cut through the Vrak ship's armor like a hot knife through butter, targeting not the hull, but the specific systems that would cause maximum damage with minimum energy expenditure. The destroyer's weapons went offline first, followed by its engines, then its life support. The crew found themselves drifting in, a dead ship, wondering what had just happened. Contact lost with the Ravager, reported the sensor operator on Thaxer's flagship. Last transmission indicated weapons malfunction. Before Thaxer could respond to more ships reported similar problems, the human vessels were striking like ghosts, appearing just long enough to cripple their targets before vanishing again into the void. They weren't trying to destroy the Vrak fleet through brute force. They were dismantling it piece by piece with surgical precision. All ships, defensive formation, Thaxer commanded. Activate deep space sensors. Find those ships. The human vessels were already inside the Vrak formation, moving through the fleet like sharks through a school of fish. They had studied Vrak tactics for years, learned their weaknesses, and developed countermeasures that turned the enemy's own strengths against them. Captain, Tordes watched from the bridge of his ship as the Vrak fleet struggled to respond to an enemy they couldn't see coming. The human vessels used a combination of advanced stealth technology and psychological warfare, striking at random intervals to keep the enemy off balance. Target their command ship, Torres ordered. Let's send them a message. The human vessel materialized directly above Thaxer's flagship, close enough that the 2 ships could have exchanged boarding parties. But instead of attacking, the human ship simply hung there, its weapons trained on the Vrak command center. The message was clear. We could have destroyed you, but we chose not to. For the first time in his career, Commander Thaxer felt genuine fear. The unknown vessel above him represented technology and tactics that were beyond his understanding. Worse, it suggested that his enemy was playing by rules he didn't know existed. Unknown vessel, Thaxer transmitted, his voice carefully controlled. Identify yourself. The response came in perfect Vrak military dialect, the human voice carrying undertones of menace that chilled the blood of every Vrak on the bridge. We are the consequence of your actions, Commander. You came here to murder innocent scientists and steal their discoveries. We came here to stop you. You are human, Thaxer realized, the pieces suddenly falling into place. But this is impossible. Human technology is primitive. Your species has no military presence in this sector. You know nothing about human capabilities, Torres replied. You see only what we allow you to see. But you have made a critical error. You have threatened our people, and humans never abandon their own. The psychological impact of this revelation rippled through the Vrak fleet. They had built their empire on the assumption that they were the apex predators of the galaxy, that no species could match their military might. But these humans were demonstrating technology and tactics that were centuries beyond anything in the Vrak arsenal. On the planet's surface, the Vrak ground troops were discovering that their problems weren't limited to space. The human rescue teams had infiltrated the planet using the same stealth technology that made their ships invisible. But they weren't just here to evacuate survivors. They were here to send a message. Dr. Sarah Chen crouched in the artifact chamber, listening to the sounds of battle above. But something had changed. The systematic destruction had been replaced by confused shouting and the sound of Vrak weapons firing at targets they couldn't see. Someone's fighting the Vrak, whispered Dr. Park. But who? Their answer came in the form of a figure materializing from nothing in the center of the chamber. The human soldier wore armor that seemed to bend light around itself, making him appear as little more than a shadow with eyes. When he spoke, his voice was calm and professional. Dr. Chen, Sergeant Rodriguez, Earth Defense Force, Special Operations. We're here to get you out. Sarah stared at the apparition in disbelief. How did you find us? How did you even know we were here? We've been monitoring the situation, Rodriguez replied. The artifact you discovered has been transmitting on frequencies that most species can't detect. But we've been listening. Human technology isn't as primitive as the galaxy believes. More figures materialized in the chamber, each one armed with weapons that looked like they belonged in a science fiction novel rather than a battlefield. The human soldiers moved with the fluid grace of professional killers, their every motion. Speaking of training and experience that went far beyond what any galactic military academies could provide, the surface is secure, reported one of the soldiers. Rack ground forces are neutralized. Neutralized, Sarah asked. Contained and ready for interrogation, Rodriguez explained. We don't kill unless we have to, but we needed to. Study their equipment and tactics. Knowledge is power, Dr. Chen, and we've been gathering knowledge about our potential enemies for a very long time. As the human soldiers escorted the survivors toward the surface, Sarah began to understand that everything she thought she knew about her own species was wrong. The Earth Defense Force wasn't the small defensive organization that most humans believed it to be. They were something far more sophisticated and dangerous. The surface of the research station had been transformed into a military staging area. Human soldiers moved with perfect coordination, their advanced armor and weapons making them look like something from humanity's distant future. They had not only defeated the Vrak ground forces, but had captured their equipment and vehicles intact. How is this possible? Sarah asked, as she watched human technicians reverse engineering Vrak weapons in real time. This technology should be decades beyond our capabilities. Rodriguez removed his helmet, revealing a face that looked surprisingly ordinary for someone who had just accomplished the impossible. Dr. Chen, humanity has been preparing for this day since we first made contact with alien species. We knew that eventually we would face enemies who saw us as nothing more than resources to be harvested. So we did what humans do best. We adapted. In orbit above the planet, the battle was reaching its conclusion. The 3 human ships had systematically disabled the entire Vrak fleet without destroying a single vessel. The enemy ships drifted helplessly in space, their crews trapped aboard vessels that had been reduced to little more than expensive debris. Commander Thaxter sat in his command chair, staring at the tactical display that showed his fleet's complete defeat. In 30 years of conquest, he had never faced an enemy like this. The humans had fought with a combination of advanced technology and tactical brilliance that was beyond his comprehension. Commander, his communications officer reported. We're receiving a transmission from the human flagship. Captain Torres appeared on the main screen, his expression serious but not hostile. Commander Thaxter, your fleet is disabled but not destroyed. Your crew are alive but helpless. This was a demonstration, not a battle. What do you want? Thaxter asked, his voice hollow with defeat. We want you to carry a message back to your empire, Torres replied. Tell them that humanity is no longer the primitive species they believe us to be. Tell them that we have been watching, learning, and preparing. Tell them that any future attacks on human colonies or research stations will be met with consequences they cannot imagine. Your species numbered in the billions across dozens of worlds, Thaxter protested. We have conquered civilizations far larger than yours. Numbers don't win wars, Commander, Torres said quietly. Intelligence does. Technology does. And above all, the willingness to do whatever it takes to protect your own people does. You came here expecting to crush helpless scientists. Instead, you found soldiers who have been training for this confrontation for generations. The human captain leaned forward, his eyes boring into Thaxter's compound gaze. But understand this, Commander.
What you've seen today
is just the beginning. We've been holding back, playing the role of harmless explorers and scientists while we studied every species in the galaxy. We know your weaknesses, your technologies, your military doctrines. We've been preparing countermeasures for decades. The implications of this revelation sent shockwaves through the Vrak command structure. If the humans had been conducting this kind of long-term intelligence gathering, then every interaction between humanity and the galaxy had been part of a larger strategic deception. "You will restore our ships and allow us to depart," Thaxter demanded, trying to salvage some dignity from the situation. "Your ships will be repaired and returned to you," Torres agreed. "But first, we're going to study them. We're going to learn everything we can about Vrak technology, tactics, and capabilities. Knowledge is power, Commander, and you've just given us a great deal of power." The message was clear. Hunters had become the hunted, and the balance of power in the galaxy was about to shift in ways that no one could have predicted. The Galaxy Learns the footage reached every corner of the galaxy within 48 hours. Combat recordings from the Vrak fleet, censored data from neutral monitoring stations, and testimonies from the rescued human scientists painted a picture that shattered everything the galactic community thought it knew about humanity. In the halls of the Galactic Council on Zenturi Prime, emergency sessions convened as representatives from 47 species struggled to understand what they had witnessed. The massive, crystalline chamber that housed the council buzzed with translations of a dozen different languages, all asking the same questions. How had humanity hidden such advanced technology? What else were they concealing? Ambassador Alina? Vasquez stood at the human delegation's podium, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the chaos surrounding her. She had served as Earth's representative to the Galactic Council for 15 years. And in all that time, she had played the role of the diplomatic representative of a young, eager species seeking acceptance among the stars. Now as she looked out at the assembled aliens, she allowed herself a small smile. The performance was over. "Honored representatives," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems. "I'm sure you have many questions about recent events at Kepler 44c. I'm here to provide answers." Council Speaker Voxstar, a crystalline being whose form refracted light into dancing rainbows, chimed with barely contained agitation. "Ambassador Vasquez, the footage from the Vrak encounter shows human vessels using technology that should be impossible for your species to possess. We demand an explanation." Alina activated her datapad, and holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber. They showed detailed schematics of human ships, weapon systems, and defensive technologies that were decades beyond anything in the galactic databases. "For the past 2 centuries," Alina explained, "humanity has been conducting what we call the long game. While we appeared to be struggling with basic faster-than-light travel and primitive energy weapons, our greatest minds were working on projects that would ensure our species' survival in a hostile galaxy." The displays shifted to show research facilities hidden in asteroid fields, secret shipyards in the outer reaches of human space, and testing grounds on remote worlds where humanity had been developing the technology that had so easily defeated the Vrak fleet. "Every trade agreement taught us about your manufacturing processes," Alina continued. "Every cultural exchange revealed your social structures and weaknesses. Every joint scientific venture allowed us to study your technologies and develop countermeasures. We have been learning from you while you dismissed us as primitive newcomers." Senator Carthal of the Draconian Hegemony rose from his position, his reptilian form coiling with agitation. "This is a violation of every trust between our species. You have been deceiving the entire galactic community." "We have been surviving," Alina replied simply. "The galaxy is not a peaceful place, despite what your treaties and councils might suggest. Species rise and fall, empires expand and collapse, and the strong prey upon the weak. We decided long ago that humanity would never be weak." The implications of her words sent ripples of unease through the assembled representatives. If humanity had been conducting this kind of long-term strategic deception, what other species might be doing the same? How many of the galaxy's primitive civilizations were actually hiding advanced capabilities? Fleet Admiral Zekanos of the Arctanian Navy demanded access to human military specifications. If humanity possesses such advanced technology, it must be shared with the galactic community. The balance of power must be maintained. Lena's smile grew wider. "Admiral, with respect, humanity never agreed to limit our technological development. We never signed treaties requiring us to share our military capabilities with potential enemies." We have been operating within the exact parameters of every agreement we've made with the galactic community. It was true, and everyone in the chamber knew it. Humanity had been carefully excluded from many of the galaxy's more restrictive treaties, dismissed as too primitive to be worth including. Now that exclusion was revealed to be a strategic advantage that had allowed them to develop capabilities that would have been forbidden to more advanced species. The tactical analysis of the Kepler-442c incident continued to spread throughout galactic military organizations, and the conclusions were uniformly disturbing. The human vessels had demonstrated stealth technology that could render ships invisible. To the most advanced sensors, their weapons could disable enemy vessels without destroying them, suggesting a level of precision that was beyond most species' capabilities. Most troubling of all was the coordination between the human ships and ground forces. They had fought as a single entity, sharing information and coordinating attacks with a precision that suggested some form of enhanced communication or shared consciousness. On the military world of Kappa Crucis, General Thwander of the Unified Defense Force studied the combat recordings for the 100th time. The Vrak were considered one of the galaxy's most formidable military powers, their tactics and technology proven across dozens of successful conquests. Yet the humans had defeated them with an ease that suggested the battle had been more demonstration than desperate struggle. Analysis complete, General, reported his intelligence officer, Major Veltar. The human vessels employed at least 17 different technologies that don't exist in our databases. Their tactical coordination suggests either advanced AI systems or some form of biological neural linking. And their ground forces? Thonder asked. Even more disturbing, Veltar replied. They demonstrated personal stealth systems, energy, weapons that could be adjusted for non-lethal takedowns, and what appears to be real-time battlefield intelligence sharing. Their soldiers moved with a coordination that suggests extensive genetic or cybernetic enhancement. The implications were staggering. Humanity had been developing this kind of technology in secret. It represented a potential threat to every other species in the galaxy. But they had also demonstrated something that was perhaps even more significant. They had chosen to disable rather than destroy their enemies. Back in the Galactic Council chambers, the debate had shifted from outrage to fear. Representatives, who had dismissed humanity as harmless newcomers, now found themselves wondering what other capabilities the humans might be hiding. The question before us, declared Council Speaker Voxstar, is whether humanity's deception represents a threat to galactic stability. Alina had been waiting for this moment. With respect, Speaker Voxstar, I believe you're asking the wrong question. The real question is what humanity intends to do with these capabilities. She activated another set of displays, these showing the aftermath of the Kepler-442c incident. The Vrak fleet had been repaired and released, their crews unharmed despite their attempted genocide. The research station had been rebuilt, and the scientific work had resumed under the protection of human naval forces. We could have destroyed the Vrak fleet, Alina explained. We could have taken their technology and added it to our own capabilities. We could have used this incident as an excuse to expand human territory at the expense of the Vrak Empire. Instead, we chose to demonstrate restraint. A demonstration of power is still a threat, buzzed Ambassador Hivemind of the collective consciousness. Everything is a threat to someone, Alina replied. The question is whether humanity chooses to be a threat to the galaxy or a defender of it. She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. The long game was never about conquest or domination. It was about ensuring that humanity would survive long enough to make a positive contribution to galactic civilization. We've been preparing for the day when we would have to choose between hiding our capabilities and using them to protect not just human interests, but the interests of all peaceful species. The chamber fell silent as the implications of her words became clear. Humanity wasn't just revealing their technological capabilities. They were positioning themselves as the galaxy's potential protectors, the hidden guardians who had been preparing for threats that others couldn't see coming. Senator Carthel raised himself to his full height. And what threats would those be? Ambassador Elena's expression grew serious. The galaxy is changing, Senator. The old balance of power is breaking down. Aggressive empires like the Vrak are becoming bolder, testing the boundaries of what they can get away with. Meanwhile, The Galactic Council spends more time debating trade regulations than preparing for the wars that are coming. She gestured to the displays showing various conflict zones throughout the galaxy. In the past year alone, we've detected 17 different aggressive actions by expansionist empires against smaller species. The Council has responded to exactly 3 of them, and only after the damage was already done. Humanity would do better, challenged Admiral Zekanos. Humanity would do what's necessary, Elena replied. We've been monitoring these situations, gathering intelligence, and preparing responses. The technology you saw at Kepler 440C is just the beginning. We've been developing capabilities specifically designed to stop aggressor species without causing unnecessary casualties. The revelation sent shockwaves through the galactic intelligence community. If humanity had been conducting this kind of comprehensive monitoring, they possessed intelligence capabilities that surpassed most major powers. They had been watching everyone, learning everyone's secrets, and preparing for conflicts that most species didn't even know were coming. This is exactly what we feared, declared Representative Quantum of the Energy Collective. Humanity has become too powerful. We must be contained before they become a threat to all of us. Elena's smile disappeared. Representative Quantum, with respect, you're missing the point. We're not asking for permission to exist or to defend ourselves. We're informing you that we've moved beyond the need for your approval. The silence that followed was deafening. For 2 centuries, humanity had played the role of the eager junior member of galactic civilization, seeking acceptance and guidance from more advanced species. Now they were announcing that the relationship had fundamentally changed. The choice before this council is simple, Elena continued. You can work with humanity as equals, recognizing that we bring unique capabilities to the table, or you can continue to treat us as primitives who need to be managed and controlled. But understand this. The days of humanity asking for permission are over. Representative Vexenol of the Trade Federation clicked his mandibles nervously. And if the Council chooses to treat humanity as a threat, if we decide that your species has become too dangerous to remain uncontrolled, Elena's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in her eyes. Then you would discover just how thoroughly we've prepared for that possibility. The technology you saw at Kepler 440C represents approximately 15% of our current military capabilities. We've been preparing for every contingency, including the possibility that the galaxy might turn against us. The displays around. The chamber shifted again, showing star maps that highlighted human colonies, trade routes, and strategic positions throughout the galaxy. But now the representatives could see patterns they had missed before. Humanity hadn't just been expanding randomly. They had been positioning themselves at key strategic points, creating a network of bases and alliances that could control galactic trade and communication. For 200 years, you've watched us establish colonies on worlds you considered worthless, Elena explained. Asteroid fields with no valuable minerals, systems too far from trade routes to be profitable, planets with harsh environments that most species wouldn't want to inhabit. What you didn't realize is that we weren't looking for comfort or easy resources. We were building a strategic network. The implications hit the assembled representatives like a physical blow. Humanity had been playing a game on a scale that none of them had comprehended. While other species fought over prime real estate and valuable trade routes, humans had been quietly securing positions that would give them control over the galaxy's infrastructure. Admiral Dickinus studied the strategic map with growing horror. Those asteroid fields contain the raw materials for shipbuilding. Those remote systems control the hyperspace lanes between major population centers. Those harsh worlds are perfect for military bases that other species would never think to attack. Every one of them is now defended by technology that can make ships invisible and weapons that can disable entire fleets, Elena confirmed. We've been building this network for generations, preparing for the day when we would no longer need to hide our capabilities. Council Speaker Voxstar's crystalline form resonated with stress harmonics. What does humanity want from the galactic community? Nothing you haven't already given us, Elena replied. The right to exist, the right to defend ourselves, and the right to pursue our own destiny among the stars. The only difference is that now we have the power to guarantee those rights ourselves. She paused, looking around the chamber at faces that showed fear, anger, and calculation in equal measure. But we're also offering something that the galaxy has never had before. A species with the capability and will to protect smaller civilizations from aggressive empires. The Vrak Empire learned at Kepler 4:4 to see that genocide is no longer a viable strategy against species under human protection. The offer was as significant as it was unprecedented. Humanity was positioning itself as the galaxy's protector, the hidden guardian that would step in when the established powers failed to act. It was a role that would give them enormous influence over galactic affairs. And who decides which species deserve protection? Asked Senator Carthel suspiciously. The same criteria we've always used, Alina answered. Species that choose cooperation over conquest, research over exploitation, and peace over war. We've been watching the galaxy for centuries. We've learned to tell the difference between civilizations that build and those that only destroy. Representative hive mind of the collective consciousness pulsed with agitation. This is unacceptable. No single species should hold such power over galactic affairs. You're right, Alina agreed, surprising everyone in the chamber. Which is why humanity is extending an offer to any species that shares our values. To join us in creating a new kind of galactic alliance, not based on political maneuvering or economic advantage, but on the principle that advanced civilizations have a responsibility to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The proposal sent shockwaves through the assembled representatives. Humanity wasn't just revealing their hidden power. They were offering to share it with species that proved themselves worthy allies. It was a fundamental reorganization of galactic politics that would render the existing council structure obsolete. The Galactic Council has served its purpose, Alina continued, but it's become clear that debate and diplomacy alone cannot protect peaceful species from aggressive empires. The galaxy needs defenders, not just negotiators. Over the following days, the implications of humanity's revelation continued to ripple throughout galactic civilization. Species that had considered themselves major powers found themselves reassessing their position in light of human capabilities. Smaller civilizations that had lived in fear of their aggressive neighbors began to see hope for protection they had never dared to imagine. The Vrak Empire, still recovering from their humiliating defeat at Kepler 4:4 to see, found themselves facing a choice that would define their future. They could continue their policy of conquest and face the consequences of human intervention, or they could adapt to a galaxy where genocide was no longer a viable strategy. Commander Thaxter sat in his command center aboard the rebuilt flagship, staring at intelligence reports that painted a picture of human capabilities that defied belief. The species he had dismissed as primitive farmers and scientists possessed technology that surpassed his empire's greatest achievements. "What are your orders, Commander?" asked his aide, waiting for instructions that would determine how the Vrak Empire would respond to this new reality. Thaxter considered his options carefully. Pride demanded that he seek revenge against the humans who had humiliated his fleet. But strategic wisdom suggested that discretion might be the better part of valor. The humans had demonstrated both the capability to destroy his fleet and the restraint to choose not to. That combination of power and mercy was more dangerous than simple aggression. Send a message to the human fleet, Thaxter decided. Request, ... negotiations. It was a word that tasted bitter in his mouth, but the alternative was a war against an enemy that had already proven their superiority. The age of rock expansion through conquest was over, ended by a species that had been patient enough to prepare for this moment across multiple generations. Meanwhile, in the hidden shipyards of human space, construction continued on vessels that would ensure humanity's position as the galaxy's guardian. The long game had entered its final phase not with conquest or domination, but with the revelation that true power lay in the willingness to use strength in service of justice. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the rebuilt research facility on Kepler 4:4 to see, watching through the windows as human patrol ships maintained their protective orbit around the planet. The artifact that had started this chain of events continued to pulse with mysterious energy, signal reaching across the galaxy to touch civilizations that were only now beginning to understand that they were no longer alone in the darkness. The plea for help had gone out, and what it answered was more than anyone could have imagined. Humanity had revealed itself not as the galaxy's newest predator, but as its oldest guardian, patient enough to wait for the right moment to step from the shadows and into the light. The galaxy would never be the same again, and perhaps that was exactly what it needed. The end.